All right, welcome back. Episode 3, Becoming a Better Investor in 2024. Took a week off last week because Chapter 3 was kind of a beast in You Can Be a Stock Market Genius. Like 50 pages, all about spinoffs. It was a really good chapter. I mean, the best chapter I've read so far because you get into like kind of the details of situations to look for, where to find, mispriced and high upside investments. I mean, that's basically what this book is all about, is finding mispricing in special situations and how to capitalize them. And so this is spinoffs. So when a company takes a division or a piece of its business and spins it off into its own company, which can be done for a variety of different reasons. Sometimes you want to unload, debt from a main business and do another business into another piece of the business that can take it on and then not be punished in the main business. Or you just, believe that your overall business is being undervalued because investors aren't looking at the smaller piece of your business and, really identifying the value there. And so your overall stock price is lower than you think it should be because you're not getting full value of this business. And there's a variety of other reasons. But the reality is that these situations can very much provide mispriced opportunities. And one of my biggest takeaways is the reason is because the people who are getting these shares are current shareholders in most situations, and they didn't necessarily buy into these stocks for this smaller business or this, other piece of the business, and they're just getting the shares. So the reality is that if they don't want to invest in this business, or if it's too small from an institutional standpoint to meet their mandate, they're just going to sell them as soon as they get them, which can cause downward pressure in the short term and can provide a pretty compelling buying opportunity if they're not really understanding and looking through all the details of the investment. And so there's a lot of different ways to kind of capture that and evaluate that. It's really, looking at the underlying piece of just that smaller business as a whole, kind of ignoring what the press releases may say, because there a lot of times, there can be pieces of this that are just generally unattractive from a, top line points, like, oh, it's going to have too much debt. Oh, this is, an insignificant piece of the business, whatever. And the reality is that, analysts and the newspapers a lot of times can be wrong on this sort of stuff because it's not, what they've been covering, or it's not the core piece of the business. And so they know less about it. And so I think the biggest takeaway as far as how to find these things is to really look into how insiders, this new management of the organization are being incentivized in the new company. So if they're getting a lot of stock options, if they're getting a lot of, payment through vested options that really need the business to be, to succeed, then that's a really good sign that this could potentially, you can find, an undervalued company. And so that's kind of the biggest takeaway, is that spinoffs, overall can just be very compelling because they're misunderstood. And then there is, immediate downside to a lot of these. And yeah, so that's kind of the big takeaway from this. There's also, really the reality is that you can buy in before a spinoff too sometimes if the math works out, where you're going to get shares of both businesses at an overall discount by buying before and then taking the shares afterward. And so a lot of different ways, a lot of different details. I am not doing it justice. So if you're interested in learning more about spinoffs, definitely pick up this book and read this chapter. I'm definitely going to have to read it again to remember all the reasons and details. But overall, spinoffs attractive. And yeah, so that's Chapter 3, Episode 3. I'm also going to give a little bonus to an article I read this week. You've probably seen over the last 2 weeks that the Apple Pro headset has come out. The people talking about the hype, the good, the bad, the metaverse being here, the future. So I read an article by Matthew Ball, who is someone who wrote a book a couple years ago about the metaverse, re-releasing it, updated version later this year. And it's just really interesting. He does a great job of kind of explaining the history of this virtual reality, metaverse technology, spatial computing, if you want to use Apple terminology, and then how it has kind of evolved from both a cultural zeitgeist, talking about Snow Crash and how that kind of, evolved, and then the early technology and everything like that, and really helping you understand the industry and the investment thesis and things like that. for the future and how these things are coming together. So I have added that article here, link in the comments. And so it was really good. So if you want a little primer on, virtual headsets, spatial computing, without having to read the whole book, I thought it was an excellent article. So go check it out. And yeah, so that's episode 3. I hope to have you back next week. If you like this, please like the episode. Go follow my page and leave a comment on any suggestions of things you want to hear. If you want more specific examples from the book, anything you think would improve these episodes, I would love to hear it. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you again next week.